obviously had a chance to go through the film and did a lot of really good things. Obviously, first half was a little bit of a kind of a mix and match, and I thought complimentary football is going to have to be a big part of that win on Saturday. And looking at it on Sunday, you really saw it come to life. They start off drive, we stop them, hold them to a field goal. We get those 2 touchdowns. They get 2 field goals, go in at 14-6, and in my opinion, could have had one more there at the end, but some things prevented that. But to come out and play the way they did in the second half, to start that opening drive with a touchdown, and then when we did stall out, to have the defense, even though they went all the way down the field, to have that 4th down stop, I think really just flipped the game and put it permanently in our favor. So a lot of really good things complimentary-wise, a couple things injury-wise. James Thompson obviously went out concussion protocol. I think there's a very good chance to get him back by Saturday, but that's kind of a wait and see. Aiden Lawfrey didn't play, but he did practice on Thursday and Friday, just wasn't feeling it as we went to the game, just from a practice tempo and the way Khalil and Caden were playing. Caleb Patterson will practice with us tomorrow morning, and if all stays on progress for him, as long as he doesn't go backwards, he should be with us no problem on Saturday as well. So from an injury standpoint, we should be getting back more to full strength. Obviously, there's even a chance, as we get closer and closer, Xavier Scott, his rehab is going absolutely awesome. I don't think there's any chance that we would get him in the 2 games left, but it does look possible for something coming on the back end of that. So just super impressed. I didn't even realize that Gabe moved into a tie with the 2nd most sacks ever in Illinois history. I think that's something you can't just act like hadn't happened. It's a really good indicator of who he is and what he's represented during his entire career here. Obviously, the leader in the clubhouse is never going to get touched. It's a crazy one. When I saw that number, I'm just like, oh my gosh. But just really, he's kind of a guy that's had a quietly good senior campaign. And has been really impressive for me to watch and see him continue to grow. I thought it was really cool to see Torrey Cox play the way he did. He's a very steady performer for us over the last 2 years. I did think Geske and Davis probably played their 2 best games. Those 2 guys side by side are a very accomplished group and do a lot of things. Josh Kreutz played good. Melvin played good. Obviously some things that just kind of go under the radar, but the numbers that Luke continued to put up, I literally shot him a message yesterday that just like as I watched the film, like there's a lot of guys, the way it was going, the way it kind of played out, guys just get frustrated and lose their mind and turn into something negative. And especially with him throwing the interception at the end of the half, I think a lot of guys will go in that locker room and just sit there and spew about it. And he just came out, was on rhythm, and was just awesome to start that second half drive. That's the stuff, in my opinion, that is going to differentiate him when teams really start to look at, like a lot of time now, NFL personnel, this is driven by personnel people or people that have watched them. When the NFL coaches start watching this cat, like when Jason Garrett came to town, he's like, Bret, you're quarterback. I said, I get it. And then you look at, I think yesterday in the NFL, I saw just something. I follow a couple people social media-wise, and I kind of sit around and take a deep breath. I think it was the most one-score games in NFL history yesterday of those matchups. And you look at a guy, the last 2 years, I think we're 11-4 or 12-4, and that's with him in one-score games. When you have an organization look at that stat alone, that will drive his value through the roof. So super excited about a lot of things, but this week to play Wisconsin, to go to Wisconsin, I know everybody's I got to ask questions Saturday, right? Like it really, truly, I think it goes back to when I was at Wisconsin as a defensive coordinator and I went to Iowa for the first time. Everybody made it about that. And I quickly realized, right, the only time that really matters is after the game, right? You have a tie with so many people personally. Still have a lot of friends at Wisco, a lot of personal friends, right, that aren't really in the athletic department and specifically not with football. So it's really nothing about that. I did, obviously make note that we have 3 guys that transferred from there. So I know that's personal. I mean, young men get involved in those moments, and it's something you kind of had to never really talk about till they went to the NFL, because all of a sudden the NFL, you could be playing against your college roommate, right? And you're going to have conversations. But in this portal world that we're in, it's just unprecedented. I always try to look at the rosters, like who might have crossed over at certain places, but then you got guys coming from multiple schools, and it's kind of almost impossible. But super excited for the challenge this week. Got a lot of respect for everything that goes on up there, so we got to put it together, have a good Tuesday. The only way to have a good Wednesday is have a great Tuesday and so forth. So I think our guys have locked into that, and hopefully we'll be there.
Coach, you finish the season with 2 night games. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just Brett taught me that one today. I just focus on the now, but you get, like you always want to find out as far ahead as possible to make plans. I think it was interesting. Bret shot me a text that the first night game in November at Geese Memorial Stadium is just, I get it. It's awesome. I think it's really cool to, especially on Fox, to have a national exposure on Thanksgiving weekend. Will be a really good opportunity. This week's play a night game in Camp Randall. I've been there many times at that point, so it's a really awesome environment. I know that that'll be a great crowd as well.
Brett, did you get any feedback or watching the film, the Hudson Clement overturn? What was the feedback?
I think both him and Tanner, Tanner, right? Tanner Arkins. I know it's frustrating to watch, but I think they're probably the right calls. I like the fact that they were actually called completed, right, rather than, because it's hard to change those back, right? I think I didn't have many. I thought that the crew going into it, that crew, Mark and his crew we've had 2 back-to-back weeks of, I think, really good officiating. There's always a couple. Obviously not going to. Everybody saw the face mask on Luke. I mean, especially Luke. I had to talk him out of that moment more than anything. Overall, I thought those were two calls that probably got in the end judged the right way. You got to maintain it to the ground. Listen, Hudson Clement is playing really good football. I had an academic meeting this morning. He turned into a Rhodes Scholar here in the last month as well. So just he's doing a lot of good mojo. I said, whatever you're eating, bro, whatever you're watching on TV, whatever you're reading, keep eating, keep sleeping, because you're doing really good things.
Hudson's second touchdown, I think 2 Maryland defenders bit on Hank in the flat.
Yeah.
I mean, to have him as even if he's not the primary, just as a decoy, what's that done for the offense?
Again, really just play designed by Barry, play concept. There was a certain part of the field that we wanted to run that. Obviously, we took advantage of the moment there, but I just think Hank. The main thing I talk to our offense about is what I would see things as a defense coordinator, right? I always look at it through the view of that, and just when he's lined up, you have to know where 80 is at. You wouldn't do anything but that as a defense coordinator. Like, is he lined up in the slot, which is the majority of his reps, but is he lined up wide, motion in? Is he lined up in the backfield? Is he lined up as a quarterback? He just brings a lot of attention, and I think to use that in a way that Barry does is very smart and obviously very productive.
But what's allowed the running game, especially the last 2 weeks, to get going?
Yeah, without a doubt, to play the offensive line, right? Like it's not overly simplistic, but when we play well up front, we play well overall. I used to get all wound up about 100-yard rushes and all that stuff, but actually by committee, it's actually better. Not just by running back committee, but also, when Luke's active with his legs, that makes a huge difference. I know he likes it. It just makes you, again, from a defensive standpoint, you have to defend an extra gap or an extra runner. Some of the things he's created with his legs through natural quarterback runs, like obviously that motion to empty that we had the little toss sweep, it's really just we've run that same play with a running back, so it's really nothing new for the guys up front. It's just Barry being creative to find a way to run it as a quarterback.
You said before that with guys you've had on your staffs, you get that feeling that something big's going to happen for them. Do you get that feeling for Barry at this point?
Well, I brought in Barry and Aaron 2 years ago, right? And I just think they, to be a head coach, listen, you got to have a resume of football success, right? So Barry has obviously done that, but you got to have that personality, you have that it factor, you got to have a reason that someone's going to come calling, right? I just so proud of Barry and just. Again, a play caller can get frazzled and rattled too, right? And he just stays true to what he is. It reminds me a lot when I had Paul Chris. I remember Paul Chris one time. I was in the booth with him. I was the defense coordinator, right? And I could hear him on the headset, and I heard him through the play call set, right? Said, "Hey, our job is to score 1 more point than they did," right? And I liked it because I was defense coordinator and gave them 40 points, right? But like. You have to have that mentality as a coordinator, but as a head coach, you do see the game differently, and I've tried to include Barry, especially this year, in as many conversations as I can about roster, about how to see the world through media's eyes, through in this world that we're in now, the donors are more present, more prevalent than ever in college football. So you got to be able to have a connection with that group of people as well. So. I think Barry's time will come when Barry's time comes, but in the meantime, I'm going to enjoy every minute of it. I do think he's a guy that I would hope he would say this, like, I grow with him every day, and hopefully he grows with me. And I think those things are really awesome to be a part of.
With the portal move back to January, What's that allow for you guys as a staff, whether it's the football, whether it's recruiting, focus, or how does that impact you?
Yeah, I used to, perspective, you guys know where I'm coming from. December used to be the worst because you literally just qualify for postseason and you want to dive into that bowl game preparation or postseason preparation, but yet you got to go on the road all over the place in December. And now that we're grounded here, we can't do anything. I had Howard Milton reached out to me the other day. I guess we're playing Tennessee in Nashville, right? And they're like, "Hey, we'd like to get a group of donors together. Would you go December 5th?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm not playing a championship game." I'm like, "Hell yeah, I'll go to Nashville, right? Like, why not?" So it's going to be a really interesting month. That first week, right when we get done with Northwestern, now a night game, so the game will be done at 9:30 or 10 o'clock, right? Like on Sunday, it's going to be complete chaos because Wednesday's the signing day for high school kids. So not only with our roster, but I'm assuming that most of these jobs are going to get filled that last week or immediately right after last game, because as soon as a coach is named, then those kids have 5 days to get in the portal, right? And I understand why ADs aren't probably naming someone, because if they name somebody, their roster could transition that last week just to get ahead of it. So those 14 schools, or how many we're at now, that have transitioned, those kids are so much more ahead of the portal window that they got the first dibs that everybody's trying to find. So their dollar value, I think, is going to be through the roof, which means I'm concerned for my guys as well, right? Our guys can't get in, but the portal dates are just what everybody writes. Like people are pre-portaling, and agents are reaching out to people all over the place. And I think December will be unprecedented in activity. Maybe that isn't viewing to the outside public, except for those 14 teams that have transitioned. That I think is going to be insane. And then I firmly believe, I think there's going to be a lot of coach swapping. I think not coordinating. I'm talking about head coaches. I think there's going to be a domino effect of several head coaches that might be transitioning where they're currently at to new positions, and then that creates a ripple effect on rosters that is unprecedented. So I think I literally, in our room now, more so than ever before, I have a football staff and I have a personnel staff. It's literally that clear. We had several official visitors in this weekend. My coaches were involved a little bit after the game, and I was involved in both, but for the most part, they're just doing football and personnel is doing personnel.
Coach, do you feel like you have the resources that you need to be competitive in the portal?
I couldn't get it any better. I mean, I can always get it better, but what Josh Whitman and our university administration has done, and we work hand in hand every day with our administration. Josh is just so in front of everything. It's just really awesome to be equipped with that. I do wish that the NCAA would help us out and let us kind of know exactly what our rules are a little bit more in advance of where we are at, but we're ahead of it as best as we humanly can, and I should have the opportunity to have the biggest opportunity financially that I've ever had here at Illinois. So of course I always want more, but some of these guys that are dealing with 30, 35, $40 million rosters, I can't comprehend what that means, and I'm not going to have that here, which I'm not asking for that either. I think I always go back to, I used to learn from Coach Fry all the time, when he'd say you recruit your own problems. Back then he was talking about just like academics, and he had no idea, but the voice of him carrying forward into where I am today is really, really prevalent.
But since you opened up talking about him, and Luke's got his final 2 or 3 games
Yeah.
left here with you guys, what has he meant to you as you built this program? What's he meant to you?
It's easy to say this, but during my career, the better quarterbacks, the guys that that went on to play in the league, I have probably learned more from them as players than most, just because they have the ball in their hands every time, and learning them and how they see things and how they react to things is so important to winning, right? I give a funny thing, right? So Russell Wilson was the first quarterback I ever saw. He would turn around, and when we would do this little orbit motion, when we were giving the ball to the tailback, he would yell reverse. And when we were giving it he wouldn't yell that, because most defensive players, if they yell reverse, they stop their feet. So I'm like, how ingenious is that, right? Like, he had his back to the ball and he's going, reverse, reverse! Like, they all stopped and played reverse, right? So that was a little moment. Russell Wilson was at practice looking at a certain part of the stadium every time before he took the snap. Well, he had looked and Googled and found out where that 25-second or the 40-second clock was. To be in meetings right now with Luke and hear him see things conceptually and then say it to art, and then it becomes reality on the football field with Barry and him, has just been a game changer for me. Like Luke, I've said this several times, he literally sees the game as well as anybody I've ever been around, and he has the natural ability. He really probably has all three sets, all three throws. He's got the deep ball, he's got the mid-range and the short, but he also has the touch and the velocity. He doesn't send a heater into someone who's not ready for it. Some of the best plays he's made with the ball in his hands that had nothing to do with throwing it, right? Like the read that he kept out here last against Rutgers on the score. That could have been a pitch, could have been a keep. He doesn't get rattled. And if I do see him get rattled, I knew he was pissed about the face mask call, so I just say, hey boy, I pat him on the chest. I don't talk to him a lot during the games, but he's just very intentional. It's invaluable. His effect, it's fun to see him over at the basketball game. To see people interact with him. That's why I think when he goes that next level, he's going to be worth a lot more than just whatever they bring him into, because he's going to be a big hit in the field building. He's probably going to share a quarterback room with some guy that's making 150 million. And, when Luke first gets there, he'll probably be a mid-round guy, that is going to be just kind of this kid coming in the building that shows everybody every day why he's worth what he is, right? And prepares for his moment.
I know that
One more after this.
you're aware of some of the stats of first time this has happened in forever. First time, say like 7 wins, second regular season wins back to back, first time since 89-90. Do you make the players aware of that? Do you make that like, here's what you're accomplishing, or do you wait till the end of the season and say like, here's what you guys accomplished?
Robert, I get the question and I appreciate the comment. I just don't think it ever benefits. Like 2 or 3 years ago, I might have said some things, right? Like we were trying to, like when we were trying to get to a bowl game, right, or get to 6 wins. But now it's more of just like, let's focus on the now. Like especially this month of November, I knew starting November what we could accomplish if we did what we needed to do, and that's really been the messaging. I laugh. Bret throws me little stats all the time that I'm like, holy cow! Like I was talking to Roger Denny last night about several different issues, and I go, hey, 7 wins, does that get me anything? Like I used to, and he's like, well, yeah, you got this, right? Like, but it's more of like it's just part of the process, right? I'll be honest, like when maybe the first set of times I had a contract negotiation, like I remember, I can't remember who said it. They're like, well, we don't want to just try to get you to 6 wins, and I started laughing. I'm like, I'm not trying to get to 6 wins. I'm trying to get 10, right? But how you schedule and how you build and how you develop has a huge factor in that moment before it gets there. And I think that's the part that I really like. I literally love it every week. We had a little thing on Saturday. It was an awesome thing. We got the Illini walk, right? But we had military personnel lined up, right, that I didn't know was going to be there, and I lost my mind. It was an awesome idea, but I couldn't high-five the fans. Like, I look for kids, and I'm just like, somebody made a decision without telling me, and it affected what we did, right? I came up, and I usually go through this door, and there's a freaking guy, what's that called when they go down on ropes? Rappelling, and I'm like, I go in that door, like I'm supposed to go in that door. So I got to run a little audible, so I go over to the left, and I go up these steps, and I get to the top, and all these concession people are in there getting ready for the thing, and I got to go right. And the guys are like, Coach, they threw your path off. And I'm like laughing, and I'm like pissed, right? Like, So the intention was great, right? It was an awesome moment, especially for military appreciation, but it threw me out of my rhythm, and that's something we can't have, right? And because those players, they hug their parents, right? They go hug their mom and dad. I saw the Biermans, right? I knew they were waiting for Grant to walk by them, right? And so there's just little things. We've had parking issues, right, that you guys probably had to deal with, right? Probably you created a siren issue, right? Like all these byproducts of people having fun coming to our games hasn't happened here, right? So like I'm happy that we're having problems, right? That's a good thing. Josh and his crew is on top of it, unbelievable, but I get it. Like there's going to be things that pop up that nobody really saw coming, and that's because we've had large crowds and we're selling tickets and winning games and we're playing games in November. I'm sure there's going to be a group of people that don't like a night game in November because it's never happened before. Well, it's a good thing, right? It's just sometimes good things that are different aren't accepted the same way initially, but they can be. So it's a really fun time to be here. I was literally talking to a colleague today that's in our conference, and he made reference to me, like he's like, man, you really got a great situation there, because he knows who Josh is, right? And to have a guy that played football, but have a guy that played football here, that hired me, hired Brad, hired Shauna, like it's just fun to really enjoy this with a group of people that have kind of gone through it and are coming out on the other side, and that's what makes it great.
Guess we have one more.
Yeah.
How did the UAB game come about?
Yeah, I don't know. So Mark handles scheduling with Roger and Josh. Usually when it's brought to me, it's kind of in the final stages of where it's at. I think there was 2 or 3 games being talked about. I knew that I think the first time it brought up, I knew there was probably going to be transition there possibly. That is what it is. But you know, for us now in this world of scheduling we're at, like when we went to 9 games and we knew the SEC was going to it, that means some of those teams are going to have to get dropped, right? Because the SEC had 8 games scheduled and they couldn't do that anymore. So I really give Mark Torresani and Roger and Josh a lot of credit because I knew that we didn't have to, like people were trying to get us signed that game like almost 18 months ago, and I kept saying, man, the SEC's gonna have to go to 9. There's gonna be all these teams that are gonna get dropped, you know, because they need games or they need to get rid of one of their scheduled non-con games, and so it was really, you know, that's how that moment came about. I can't say anything other than what was put in front of me, and I just had to say yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.